This is Dutch Moyer coming to you live with a new edition of This Old House. On this edition of This Old House, we're talking about personal responsibility, taking ownership. And to be open with you, when Edison invented the light bulb, he had 1,900 mistakes before he had success with the light bulb. Well, with this house that we have here, it was a house that was built on property that was known for having water. My dad came up with a plan to try to solve it by elevating the ground up with concrete and then building the house on top of that. It sounded like a reasonable idea. Unfortunately, it was one of those 1,900 mistakes. And so, when you have tons of concrete in your yard, how do you take personal responsibility for it? You know, in today's society, coaches say, I take personal responsibility. Or a principal says, I take personal responsibility. But for most people, it's just a cliche. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a way of passing the buck. Well, I didn't have a bailout package for this house. I knew that if I had to take personal responsibility, I was going to have to save some money. Because to deal with the excavating of the concrete and the soil that was too high against the house, which caused rot against the side of the house, it might be upward of $40,000 in addition to the fixing up of the house. So that took time, it took money, and it took patience, and it took a game plan. How do you solve this situation of water going into the basement and causing rot to the house? Well, what we decided to do is take something that was a negative and turn it into something positive. As you can see here on the back side of the house here, you have a lot of soil and water. And as we take a scoop around the back side here, you can see the slope of the land being too high and needing to be taken away. So rather than pretend by using some nice words of I take responsibility, we got a game plan together and try to take a negative situation and make it into something positive. We took a bad situation here and now we're going to turn it into 2 bedrooms on the basement level, a dining room addition on the first floor level, and a first floor bedroom over here. And then what we have an excavator coming around to slope the land away so that the water flows away from the house. And we're doing an extra bit by adding fill with stone that will go against the back side of the house. So any time that you have any water flow coming or from down below, that it will hit the stone and not the house. That's taking personal responsibility. And it's only through taking personal responsibility that you actually solve the problem. They say, you know, one of the keys to solving a problem is admitting you have one and then taking the steps to go about it. And in this edition of This Old House, we outlined what we try to do to get the job done. Tune in next week to another edition of This Old House.